Hello everyone. Recently, YouTube asked everybody to pick a handle, and they reserved for those who don't want to pick a handle. They are happy with what YouTube has chosen for them. I am one of those because I got chosen the handle of the Tesla 369 code for a reason. And for many years now, I've been dibbling into that, and even got my bride involved with that, Katerina. So she also published a paper in which she had her contribution to the Tesla 369 code. But Tesla was a man who was obsessed with electricity, apparently because he was born in a lightning storm and that affected him in some weird way or another. But Tesla did some incredible experiments with electricity. In fact, he's the father of alternating current, which means that the current is fluctuating between a north and a south all the time. And he said that if we knew the magnificence of the numbers 3, 6, and 9, we would have a key to the universe. Now, it is a bit of a riddle because 3, 6, and 9 are figures, so we'd have to combine this to make up something that would be significant in the universe, or a significant thing to our carbon reality. And we have this equilateral triangle which gives us a figure of 666, which is probably the inner side of the 369 code, because the 369 code will be then external, but inside everything is on 60 degrees, which gives us a figure of 666. So we have Revelation 13, which tells us about a man who's chosen the number 666 to be his number, and we can find that all over. If you go and do some research into that, you'll see what I'm saying. But in reality, this little graph there, or this little picture that I put up here for you, is to try and explain to you how the whole thing works. Like, for instance, the left hand will be controlled by the right brain lobe, and the right hand will be controlled by the left brain lobe. And everything works in a crisscross way. So we have in the center of each one, from top to bottom, we have an equator, and from left to right we have an equator. So for Earth, it would be from top to bottom, it would be the separation between east and west, and from through the section, through the equator, it would be the separation of north and south. And the only thing that we can really attribute our reality to, even Earth, everything that we have in the atmosphere of Earth, is made up of carbon. Now, carbon has 3 components. And this is where the 3 comes in. So we have 3 components, and each component consists of 6 particles. And in this instance, it's protons, neutrons, and electrons. And the protons and neutrons are always together. They're a unit that stick together. They never separate. In fact, this is what CERN is probably trying to do now, is to separate the atoms so that they can get to what's sitting in between the proton and the neutron, which I have specified as those two are kept together by a vortex, which is basically sealing all of God's information. So everything is controlled by electromagnetic force. And Earth has an electromagnetic image, which is a magnetic field that rotates counter to what happens with the physical rotation of Earth. So if Earth rotates from west to east, the electromagnetic field rotates from east to west. And this is evident in a system of mathematics that we've come up with, which is called vortex mathematics, which is basically explained in a video that I'll leave a link to, so I'm not going to get into this at the moment, but the vortex mathematics really determines how everything creates by itself. Now this is the principle. The little figure you see on the left is a little triangle that came up with the same triangle or right-angled unilateral triangle that I showed you in the beginning, and there you see it in the white. But you're also probably familiar with the little figure on the right-hand side, which I know as the Star of David, or I used to know as the Star of David, but it really actually isn't. So we will get to that, and it's very significant. That figure is very, very significant to everything we have in life. So this mathematics that came up with is the mathematics that determines the flower of life, which is behind me here. And the flower of life is as a result of resonant loops. So you can see they're all circles. So every circle where a circle meets, there's a resonant point. And that resonant point is an enhancement point. It's a stronger point, which obviously with a combination of all the power coming together there, you can see that there's a strengthened point there, instead of like being just out into the circumference of the circle. So what is it all about? Now Tesla was about alternating current, and in fact he had a Barney with Thomas Edison about electromagnetic force, and he basically said that everything should be done with alternating current, and Thomas Edison opposed that, said everything should be done with DC. And Thomas Edison wanted to put up all of these power stations that generated DC power, and the problem with DC is that when you transmit it over a distance, it actually doesn't really go very far. But with an electromagnetic force, it is infinite. It never stops. When you have a force in balance, when the electromagnetic peaks on the top and the bottom are in balance, then we find that it is eternal, and it's all because of the balance. So all we have to really do is put 3 and 6 on the scale, and then we will be able to judge the balance between them, which is what I'm going to do for you now. But this figure shows the 9 on the pivot, which is very significant, because the 9 is going to be the deciding factor, or the God factor, which is in everything, the creation factor, which is in everything. So you create yourself, your reality, by looking through a lens. In your eye you have a lens, and everything that comes through that lens is what gives you a certain attribute of your consciousness. Your consciousness is anchored in 2 places, but when your consciousness is in line with your social and your collective consciousness are in line with each other, then you have what is known as resonance. Now resonance is the most powerful thing. Everything on earth is caused by resonance. The atom is kept together by resonance. The resonance is creating a huge electromagnetic field, which really is the attracting or the thing that holds it all together. Now, if we want to go and specify the number 3, we got to look in terms of the 2 entities on each side of the resonance and the resulting resonance. Now, the crossover of the resonance is what we call a noose or a loop. And that's really what this is all about. And Tesla was obsessed by the number 3. He walked around the block 3 times before he went home. Everything he did in 3s. He was truly obsessed by it. But why? So we have 2 components, and now I'm saying to you that we have a spiritual component and we have a physical component. And the physical component is the mass number, which is 12. We always work to a single digit in numerology, so that will be the number 3. So the number 3 is the mass number of the carbon atom. And as you know, everything is made up of carbon 12, which is 99% of all of creation is carbon 12. The others is carbon 13 and 14. So why 3? Because everything in the universe is divided into 3. So this, or not in the universe, rather on in our atmosphere on Earth, because we have on Earth we have the male and female, we have north-south, we have all of these things, but it's all really divided into sections of 33%. Now, for it all to function, this must be a unit, a resonating unit for Earth to be functioning correctly. There needs to be, in our bodies, we are made up of 33% male, or 33% of that percentage is male when we are male, and we have also a 33% female. And then the spirituality, the spiritual aspect, is what will determine whether we will be displaying a male or a female on the outside. But the physical side is that we have either we're producing testosterone because we have testicles, or we have ovaries in the woman, which produces the estrogen, which makes them female. Those are the two deciding physical factors. But the spiritual factor is how you have, in your collective consciousness, manufactured yourself or brought yourself into the world, or how you portray yourself in the world. Now, I went and had a look at wherever I could find the number 3, and a search revealed some really interesting things. And I've been doing this for so many years now that I've gone and crossed all of these paths, and I've looked into all of this. And this is a very significant thing. I think all of you are aware of what's going on in the world today with COVID and so. And these people who have this all-seeing eye on the dollar, who are called the Freemasons, they have 33-degree as the maximum qualification, or the maximum height anybody can ascend in the Freemasonry. And it's very significant because 33 is linked to the north and the east parallels of Earth on 33 degrees, and where we will find the Mount Heron in Israel. And you know, with all the problems that we're having in Syria, and all of these wars going on between East and West, we have really a problem because of what is written here. Now, I'm not going to read it for you. You can read it yourself. It's from Enoch chapter 6, and this is really what this little statement makes, is really where all of Earth's problems comes from. Earth is in turmoil because of what happened on this curse that these people promised them, sworn themselves to. So if we look at the protons and neutrons, you'll see 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. So we have the number 666, and we have the number 3 of 3 components. So today we have the computer industry, which is really the hugest industry at the moment. Everything is happening this. I'm doing this because it's made possible by computers. And in the computer industry, there is a language known as hexadecimal. And the hex code is the code that the computer speaks to itself in, and how you program, and everything is done in a hex code. And the hex code can be broken down into a binary code, which is binary is a combination of 4 digits, which are really made up of zeros and ones, and this is called logics. So when we work with logics, we work with zeros and ones, but the hex code for 666 is FFF, and when it's broken down into its binary form, which is the basis of it, then we'll see it's double one, double one, double one, or 11, 11, 11, 11, which is something that is quite significant in modern society from a consciousness point of view. I think we're all familiar with the 1111 God code, they call it. But really, when you break that down, the binary of 111 in hexadecimal is 3. So really, the 666 or the FFF in hexadecimal comes to 333333 in binary. And where that is really applied, 3333 is a 666, which is the World Wide Web. www in Hebrew is wav, 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 which has a numerological value of 6. And this is very significant, as a lot of my teachings are focused on this combination. And in the vortex matrix, in the vortex matrix I was telling you about earlier, the combination with things like the Fibonacci sequence or the chromic scale or the Rodin's mass, these things were all combined in, and there's something that you probably recognize here, which is the yin-yang sign. The yin-yang sign gives us that combination of the resonance between two equal opposites. So if we want to resonate, we must resonate in a cross section to equal opposites. Now, it is important to realize how each of us is made up. We are made up of, if you're a male, you're a 70% male, because you've got the spirituality of a male, the thinking process of a male, and you've got the hormones of a male. But you also have a bit of estrogen inside of you, which makes you partly female. And the reason for the partly female is that you can relate to females. If you didn't have that, you wouldn't want to resonate with a female. You wouldn't relate to them at all. You wouldn't recognize them at all. So women are just quite the opposite to that. So women are on the other side of that cross section, which they are 100% opposite to us. So it's safe to say that women are our equal opposites. Now, what needs to happen for this to become a full-fledged yin-yang sign is we need to balance our brain lobes. For us to become in union with ourselves and to become who we are and what we were actually really designed for, is we need to have resonance between our two brain lobes. This is the first point where we have to start evolving from. And, we have many religions on earth which all are trying to teach a spirituality, which is obviously Christianity or Muslim or Judaism, or so. They're all trying to teach one thing, and that is the resonance of the two brain lobes. Now, the two brain lobes work in union with each other, because the one side, the right-hand side, is the brain lobe that gives you the mental picture, the metaphysical side, and the left brain lobe is the one that helps you, or where you store the information, the intellectual properties. So the left brain is the intellectual one, the right brain is the metaphysical one, the non-physical one, the one that gives you the picture. So for us to be able to be in union with ourselves, which is the first point where we have to start, we have to be in union with ourselves first, is to get our brain right. And to do this, it needs to see, the two of them need to agree on the same thing. So if you get information, intellectual information into the left brain, and the right brain makes sense of the information, then it will form a picture, and the two will resonate like that. But if there is internal conflict, then the left brain will get the information, and the right brain will say, but how can that be? Because here it says this, or whatever the case may be, and it won't agree. So those two will not resonate if they don't agree. And this is described in Christianity or in religions, it's described as a Trinity. Now, Trinity happens in the bottom section of the pyramid between Son and Spirit. That's that little graph I showed you with the 33s, male, female. So between the male, the Son, his spirit must be fully male. His spirit must be conceived within himself to be able to resonate with that. And this is really where the two brain lobes have to be in union to be able to get that, because the Father will appear spontaneously, as I told you in the triangle before. The Father, or the spiritual aspect, the enhanced spiritual aspect, so to speak, will appear in the form of whatever. So if you are resonating between left and right brain lobes, you're resonating between the inner and the outer self. So you're resonating between heart and mind. And this you need to do for you to be authentic. Because if you have problems, like for instance, if you have a narcissistic personality disorder, which is a social consciousness that you collected from your parents, then you will not be able to stand and look in the mirror and see that, because maybe you will see the full apple, but everybody who is looking at you will not see the full picture. And this is where the problem comes in society today, why we have so many divorces and wars and fighting and all of this, is because we are not authentic, because we do not know all of the truth. So for us to be in resonance, we will produce this magnetic field around us, because the resonance happens between once your brain lobes are resonating or speaking and agreeing on the same thing, the resonance happens between your heart and your brain. And the ancients have given us a guidance to this, which is being ridiculed by religions or by Christianity. I hear these days they're saying that it is satanic, but it is not. Kabbalah really means given teaching. And Kabbalah is known as the Ein Sof Ahur, which means it is a graph that will lead you or guide you to the Ein Sof Ahur. And Ein Sof Ahur, it means the potential of evolution to the limitless light. So Ayin means the potential in. So we have potential in evolving into the limitless light on the basis of this. And the Kabbalah is separated into all of these energy fields or energy pods, which have certain attributes in our bodies. So for us, when we are born as Malkuth. In the bottom here you see Malkuth. So Malkuth is the physical body. That's who we are, and our carbon makeup. But the Yesod is the physical makeup that we have. So we get given, we are born on a specific day where we are given, or we are given by the universe, we are given a character which is known as either the Chinese horoscope or the zodiac or whatever. And these are attributes which are not physical, but they are attributes which we get from the spirituality of the specific time and place that we were born. So in our consciousness, this is part of our social consciousness. So to improve our lives, we are taught through these religions, which, by the way, I don't agree with all the religions, because effectively if there's one truth, there is only one religion. and we all only need one church. We don't need all of these that hang around earth these days. But when we are born, we have to realize that there is a spiritual aspect to our life, and if we choose to pursue and improve and grow and evolve our spirituality, then we have the possibility of becoming balanced between our heart and our brain. And the brain and the heart function is, when they are in balance, then there is a phenomenal thing that happens which connects you to the ether, or to the radiant energy of earth, which is also specified by Tesla. Then these will connect you to the higher realms of being when they are resonating, and that will open what they call the third eye, or the pineal gland, which allows you. The pineal gland, by the way, is a third eye. It's called they call it the third eye for a reason, because its makeup is exactly the same as the eye, and when that becomes active, we have this incredible intuition where we can read Akashic records. We can understand what God is expecting of us, and we can evolve ourselves to the point where we are energized spiritually. Now, when we reach the height of this evolution of ourselves, we conceive what is known as Chesed and Gevurah on the Kabbalah. So the Kabbalah specifies these two as Gevurah as judgment, and Chesed as love. And these two, when they are in balance, that is where we are supposed to be. Like, for instance, if you are conceived in Chesed, in other words, you're a Christian, and you conceive Chesed because Christianity they say, is all about love and no judgment. And they say you're not allowed to judge because God judges. But this is incorrect, because we have to judge. We have to judge ourselves. We have to take responsibility for our actions, and we have to take responsibility for how we treat others. So if we treat others with love, but we judge, then we will say to them, or we will be judgmental towards them, which will not be acceptable in humanity, because nobody likes to be judged. But when we judge in fairness and honesty, then it is that is the right way to go about it. When we're judging in wisdom, and the wisdom that we are judging in is written down in all the gnosis and scriptures of earth. So we have to structure our brains so that we can judge and we can love at the same time, and be okay with that when everything is in union there and it is working right, and we look in the mirror, we will see this. Now, if we see this, it means that we are being authentic. And if we're authentic in regard to our consciousness, then what is good and evil, we will judge. We will be able to say, yes, that is not right because the Bible says this, and we will stick to this. So if the Bible says we are not allowed to mix our blood, then we don't mix our blood, because that is correct and that is the truth how it should be. And we will not falter on that, because it is a given, and we've proven to ourselves and we believe it. And when we believe it, then it becomes a reality in our life. So number 3 was a thing, but more internal, more spiritual. So number 6 has to be then the combination of what we are made of. And you'll see I chose a little thing here with diamonds in, because diamonds is really actually the highest form of carbon evolution. So something becomes a diamond when it's reached the maximum of its evolution, and it cannot go any further. But before I forget, working these things, we don't have an income at the moment. Since 2016, we had a little glitch in our system where we stood up against the authorities, and many things happened. So we have been working, myself and Katerina have been working on all of this stuff for so many years now, and we don't do anything else. We've been supported by the parents. So, but if you like and subscribe and share, then at least YouTube is willing to reimburse us for our time. If you do not, then the earth is going to turn into a monster and is going to come and eat you up. So let's get on with it. So we're defining the number 6 now, and the number 6 is the makeup of each component of the carbon atom. So there are 6 of each in everything that we do. So that's where the number 666 comes from, is that 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. But in the yin-yang circle, if we're applying it to ourselves, we are applying that to the inner. The number 3, which I've just explained to you, is how to improve your inner, how to get the inner spiritual side right. But the outer is a physical body that needs nurturing, it needs all its needs met, and it needs to have the right food, and all of these things all need to be in synchronicity with one another to complement the inner. Now you'll see that I use colors red and blue. And the reason why I use red and blue is because in the Bible Moses was given the colors red and blue and blended between them into magenta or violet, which is really was the description. The violet is the description of the spiritual being that we know, or that Christians know as God, but it's much more than that. So just to recap, we've done the inside. Now we're looking in the outside, and the number 6. And the number 6 is basically the resonance that happens in the atom that allows it to stay alive like this. When the atom dies, it's one of the cell in your body dies, your body simply generates new ones. But what happens inside an atom is motion like this all the time. So the sine wave, or there is motion from north to south, left to right. Motion is in all directions of these 6 electrons floating around the protons. And that sine wave, once again, which Nikola Tesla specified, or which he was in favor of, is it goes from a plus to a minus and back to a plus. Now I've put some numbers here. You'll see a 1 and a 9 and a 9 and a 1 and so forth. So each time it goes from the 0 point through to 1 and then to 9 and then back. So 19 or 119 or 191 are all extremely significant numbers. Like COVID-19 was planned specifically for 2019 because of the 19. Like the Twin Towers was bombed specifically on 9/11, because these two signify beginning and end. They're a start and they're an ending and a new start. They signify, in numerology, it is described as the number of new beginnings. So we need all our needs met for us to be physically healthy. And to fulfill our needs, we need mostly love. We need to love ourselves. I mean, God expects 3 things of you. He expects you to love yourself, to know His plan, and to be true to yourself, and to be true to His plan. So those 3 things are significant. He also expects of you to fight Satan every day. And the way to do that is to be informed, to have the knowledge. And the knowledge is what is going to give you the resonance in your brain, so that your brain and your heart can then become in union. And the union that will happen there is like this. It's perpetually changing into from one to the other, from one to the other. And in the middle where the two cross, that's where the noose is. The noose of God sits there. So to get back to those 33, if you look, you'll see that it's divided into three. So you really have a triangle in the middle. If you look at a tetrahedron from the top, you will see basically that those lines that are in the middle, which come together in the center, and they have inspired that Star of David, which I was mentioning earlier, which is not really the Star of David, but it is the Star of 666, which Israel flies a blue one of this, and the Rothschild family flies a red one of this. All of the things that I say to you are significant, so I'm giving you clues as I'm speaking. I'm giving you clues into what is the reality on earth that we face. So the red and the blue, like I said to you, is like came from Moses and Zipporah, which Zipporah was red and Moses was blue, and the blend between them was the purple. But you know what? Who is really the boss? Who is in control? Who did God put in charge? If a woman is in charge, then we will have a certain mindset. And if a man is in charge, we'll have a different mindset. But if we are both in charge, then if we're both in charge of our reality and we're collectively working together as one, then the problem of who's the boss is solved. Now, everyone has his attributes. Woman's contribution to our reality is childbirth. I mean, she's the one who births the reality. So we evolve from our mother to our father. We evolve from the bottom to the top, to heaven. We go from earth to heaven. And for us to do that, we have to have our auras all in synchronicity. And you must remember that these protons, neutrons, electrons, they chose to be you. They chose to make up the body that you have now. And they chose that body because they have another equal opposite body if these protons, neutrons, and electrons are pure and connected to a specific family. There is already an equal opposite that is on earth at the same time as your body is. And this was ordained the day that spermie entered the egg. Incidentally, the first egg that became conscious was a conscious egg which came from another planet, and it's the story of Enki and Ninmah who started breeding with these creatures of earth and trying to make them more capable of conceiving an intellectual aspect of reality. And they brought about the humanity as we know today. And she was the first Rh negative egg. So the spermies that went into the Rh negative egg has produced certain bloodlines. These bloodlines were supposed to be kept pure. And when this vortex matrix comes together and this evolution happens where the sperm goes into the egg, then immediately the vortex mathematics starts applying itself, and it will choose the male and the female. Now, if you look in the center, the thing is called that little graph in the center is called a cardioid. Now, the cardioid is where everything starts. You know that when mom and dad have intercourse, then really you have two entities coming together to produce a third entity, and that happens through the center of the body. That's why the Kabbalah is put on your back with the Malkut and the Yesod on the pelvis, where all of creation starts from. So when mom and dad do their thing, then the creation starts from there, from a zero world into a physical world, from a world of nothingness, empty space, into a world of carbon reality. And you know that we are two separate entities as male and female, but Yeshua said that we have to become one. Many times in the Bible it's written that our objective is to be one. So we must be one in ourselves, and we must be one with our partner. I mean, God gave us a partner because he said that we are supposed to be with someone. We're not supposed to be alone. It's not good for us to be alone. So effectively what it's saying is that we evolve when we become one with our partner. So when we evolve to become one with our partner, then we start, if we become one, we start to resonate with Bina, and between Bina and Chokmah. And I'm showing you this because this is significant. It's not Chesed and Gevurah, which is just below there, but this is Bina and Chokmah, and Kether and Chokmah are always in union, and they represent the proton and the neutron. So when the proton and the neutron is in resonance, they come onto Earth, and they meet up with a woman, which is the electron, and they become a resonant loop between them. Then the whole thing becomes an atom, a physical atom that we can see under a microscope, which has made up everything on Earth. Now, the resonance that happens between Kether and Chokmah is a spiritual resonance in our instance. It's a resonance that we have to learn. We have to be taught this to be able to think like God. And this is the man's purpose. And the reason why there's so much problems on Earth is because men are defying this. They are not doing this resonance. And the resonance that happens here is a resonance that will eventually take that triangle, that tetrahedron triangle that has four sides or 4 points, and it turns it into a combination of two when you're in one. So the tetrahedron becomes an active unit. So the key for the 369 code is actually in that combination. So to see the real key is it's not so much 3, 6, and 9, but it is more about a combination to a lock, which also is described in the Bible. It says that only one man on earth has this key. Only one man on earth, according to Revelation 5, only one man on earth can understand the Bible, and he, because he owns the key. Now the key is for earth to resonate in union with the frequency of the ether, or the radiant energy, will fit into a 432 hertz signal. Now if you compare these two images that I've given you, is that 432 looks like a very structured and organized resonant frequency, whereas 440 is not so very structured and organized. In fact, it's more chaotic. Now, everything on Earth that we hear on radios and TVs, all sound that is made, all instruments are tuned now to a 440 hertz vibrational or bass frequency. And this has been done for a reason which is something else that we will also discuss with you, but that bass frequency should really be 432 hertz. Now, if you have 432 hertz as a base frequency, the frequency that all of humanity will resonate with, then you look at the four sides of those two tetrahedrons, so it's just 44, gives you a number of 44, the two tetrahedrons, of the two sides, the resonance, which is the resonant between the feminine and the masculine, and the combination to the lock, or the combination to the key is 432 and 234. And remember, I said to you in the beginning, I said to you that you become the person standing inside the lens. So if you're in the lens, then you should be able to see to either side. You see the same thing, but you see to one side, you see the spiritual aspect, which has 3 dimensions, and you see the physical aspect, which has 3 dimensions. And the 3 dimensions of the spiritual is what really is lacking out of the world and out of men today, because men have really neglected their spiritual aspect. But you know that when we go to church, we go and get married, then we're marrying between two tetrahedrons, really. We're causing a union between these two tetrahedron triangles, which will merge into one. So we give a ring and a diamond, or a diamond ring as a wedding ring, because the diamond is the hopeful outcome of the marriage, because it's the highest evolution of carbon, and the ring that we put on the finger is the ring that is the noose that sits on that cross point of the resonance. It's also known as the noose of God, but the noose of God is really what we give to our wife when we get married and say, I'll be faithful to you. So if we really go and sit back and think about this, then you will understand that all of this is very relevant to how we live our life on earth. And in case you didn't quite agree with me on the egg being from another planet, the RH negative egg, then you know we have these crop circles that appear randomly, and this one is really to give us exactly the same as the two tetrahedrons in union. And this is really what it's all about. This is where humanity is not fulfilling their divine evolution. So the consciousness of humanity is anchored in two places. The consciousness of humanity is anchored between good and evil. And good and evil are the two aspects that we are born with. We are born with a little Satan inside, and we are born with a little God inside. And we have to choose through our lives how we are going to apply them. And the truth is that these two attributes come from a specific place. And our consciousness started when Adam and Eve were born, and they became the icons of the Bible, or the icons of humanity as we have it today. But they also have attributes that connect them to the zodiac. So, for instance, you know about the snake of Genesis. Now, the snake in Genesis that was speaking to Eve was the zodiacal snake. And Adam wasn't really a lion. Adam was probably something else, but the lion really was Seth. So it's a war between, or it's a feud, or it's a struggle of good and evil between the lion and the snake. And wherever you look in history, you will see these two depicted. So for them to become in union is a very difficult thing, because we have our evolution, the things that we socially conceive through who we are friends with, through our governments, the programming that we receive. All of these is our social consciousness. And our divine consciousness is what makes us different to animals. Animals do not have the ability to distinguish the difference between social consciousness and divine consciousness, or God consciousness, if you like. So our whole journey up until this point was to define that, the contribution of Eve as the snake, and the contribution of Seth as the spiritual connection to God. So we teach these things. We are now registered on the platform called LearnDesk.com, where we will very shortly be active. In fact, within the next couple of days, we will be switching on our profiles, and you will be able to book one-on-one classes with us. And we also intend on doing once a week 1, 2, 3 hour discussion on any of the subjects that we have written into our book, and that took me 22 years and her 10 years of her life to be able to put together. Together we have 33 years of experience right now. So I thank you, and I greet you. I hope you've enjoyed it, and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.